Let's go to Kenya, right? So one of the article that was posted during the day had this title. It was from Bloomberg, and I'm beginning to love these guys. So this is what they said. They said the Kenya cabinet, high flying president brought down, they say brought down to earth by protests. That is the original title. So they had this earlier in the morning. It was that the high flying president brought down to earth by protest, but they've since changed that title, maybe because it is too controversial. But the initial idea, the original title, actually was very good, and I'm going to show you the screenshot of that when it appeared on their newspaper. But for now, this is what the article has. They say Kenya's President Ruto fired his cabinet but still faces mounting crisis. Initially, it was, as you can see even in the link, it was Kenya cabinet high flying president brought down, to earth by protests. That's a fact. So Kenyan youths have been protesting for over almost a month now, and they've been protesting because there's rampant corruption, and the economy is not doing well. The government keeps borrowing a lot of IMF loans to basically finance recurrent expenditure. Now, when you see a government borrowing to finance a recurrent expenditure, that is a recipe for an economic breakdown, because the current expenditures are things like salaries for the civil servants, money that is used in the offices to run the operations in those offices, and so on. That's very dangerous. It means this country doesn't have taxes that they are collecting to be able to finance these operations. And it's not like Kenya doesn't have taxes. It's just that the taxes in Kenya are stolen, all of them. The whole tax collected is stolen. And now the government has to borrow from the IMF to finance every single operation. And that's why the Kenyan youths are protesting. The other reason is that there are no jobs for youths. And Kenya is one of those African countries today with a very large youth population. Out of 44 killed protesters, I went through the list and their names and the things they were saying about them. I discovered about 75% of them, almost 70%, are about 70, more than 2/3 of them had university or college level education. Most of them actually had degrees, university degrees. So the people who are actually protesting in Kenya are frustrated graduates, people who graduated and cannot find jobs. Initially, I remember, I think I used to hear that Kenyans used to do some jobs on the side after they graduated and they were not unemployed. I think nowadays, because of what is happening, they're not able to do that. The things they used to do, like writing, then nowadays you have the AI like ChatGPT doing the writing. So that's what is happening there. And now, after they protested, a lot of them were killed, hundreds of them. The government has only shown us 44, but truth of the matter is that more bodies keep getting discovered. The police could have killed more than 100 of them. And that is what has led to the Inspector General, the top police officer, Inspector General of Police, who is called Japheth Kome, resigning today. He's the chief of police in Kenya. He has resigned because he's trying to run away from being investigated, which they should do, and taken to court, because he gave orders to the police to deal with the protesters with excessive force. Now, more than 100 of these young people with degrees are dead. Bodies keep getting discovered in dump sites and, abandoned mining areas and quarries, quarries where they get the rocks for building. So those are the latest story. But what you have to get is that the Kenyan's president has fired his cabinet. All the ministers are now jobless. He did it after discovering that young people will keep protesting and he will have to keep killing them. So he's trying to buy time. And the article from the Washington Post says, after weeks of protest, Kenya's president sacks his much reviled, hated ministers. This president came to power pretending that he's going to help the youths get jobs. He was promising them things that are not even possible, saying that he's going to create 6 million jobs in a year. He has created 0 jobs so far, unless for his family and extended family, those ones have jobs, but beyond that, people don't have jobs. He told them that he's going to kind of end corruption. He's actually a very corrupt president. He was corrupt even before he was voted in. He used the church to say that he's now born again and he's not going to steal anymore. But he's been stealing all this money that he gets from the IMF. So he takes loans from the IMF and the Kenyans will have to pay it for the next 30 years, maybe 50 years, who knows. But he has stolen that. Now the people are protesting. Some of them are the ones who had actually voted for him, believing that he changed, believing that he had converted and got born again in church. So now they've realized that he lied to them. He's stealing money every day, trillions of money, building homes all over the place. In the farms, he's buying ranches all over the place. He wants to be a very rich person in Africa, and they are protesting. So he's scared, and he knows that these youths might remove him from power before he goes for his re-election. And his re-election looks like he's not going to win. He stands no chance. So he's trying to fire his cabinet to try to see whether he can dupe the same youths he lied to before he was voted in. I don't think it will work. Now today he has forced the Inspector General to resign because evidence shows that there's so many of these young people who got killed during the last 3 protests. And that's what is happening in Kenya. But bottom line is the Kenyan youths have really changed what is happening in Kenya. They have sent home a cabinet. They've also kind of made the president not sign a proposed bill on taxes, on these taxes that were going to hurt them more. And it's a step in the right direction. Now, more than 100 of these youths have died, but it shows the resilience of these youths. Sometimes they say, for you to rebuild better, you have to break it down. And the youths in Kenya have sworn that they are going to protest until the whole country is in ashes. And they're saying they can destroy every single building in Kenya and then rebuild a new Kenya. So for you to rebuild, you need to break it down to the foundation. And that's what the political class in Kenya doesn't want. The opposition leader actually came out and joined this current president to try to say that they are going to form a coalition government that listens to the people and so on and so on. But the Kenyans don't buy that. The young people in Kenya who have no jobs and they have degrees, most of them actually had even master degree. You go to university, you get a degree, you come out, no job, then you decide maybe the reason why you're not getting a job is because maybe you need a master's degree. So you go back to the same university or another one, pay more money for that, get a master's degree, and still no jobs for you. And what you have are parents back in the village who sold off all their cows and livestock to educate or to pay for your degrees, and they are now poor and you have no job. So that's why these youths are coming out. They don't fear that they are going to die. That is not a concern for them. I saw a video where when they were trying to get into parliament or to enter the parliament, some of them were shot, and the ones who were behind them kept coming forward. So this forced the police officers to basically retreat. And that's the situation I noticed in Kenya. If most African countries, the youths would do that, Africa would get liberated. Think about Cameroon, for example. Very poor, very poor. And think about the dictator there, Paul Biya, who is now 91. He's very soon going to be 92 years. He wants to run for another term. He has been ruling Cameroon for the last 46 years. Think of Zimbabwe. Think of the dictator, Emerson Mnangagwa. I mean, if African youths can do what the Kenyan youths are doing, a lot of countries will start achieving democracy. Of course, during that or doing that, we'll have some of them killed, like these 100 killed in Kenya. But it's a price that has to be paid, or otherwise the people will sink, all of them. So sometimes they say we have to paddle together, or otherwise we sink differently. I don't know what it means exactly, but I suspect it's when you are in a boat and the waves get turbulence. You have to kind of try to paddle to the safest area. So everyone has to do their part in rowing the boat. If you don't, when the boat capsizes, then people will sink differently. Meaning, some people know how to swim than others. So some will be fast casualties, others will hang on for a few minutes or even hours before they drown. So we'd rather paddle together or we sink differently. So that's something I read somewhere. And I think the Kenyan youths have decided to paddle together, or else they are going to sink differently.